In the spring of 1492, in a throne room in Spain, one man stood before King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella and tried to buy back the future of an entire people. He was the royal treasurer, the financier, who had helped fund the very war the monarchs had just won. He offered them an enormous sum of gold to cancel the decree that would expel every Jew from Spain. For a moment, it is said, the king wavered, and then the Grand Inquisitor stormed in, threw a crucifix on the table, and accused the monarchs of selling their lord for gold the way Judas once had. The deal collapsed. The expulsion went forward, and the man who had tried to stop it, rather than convert to save his fortune and his comfort, chose exile alongside his people, and sailed away from Spain forever. His name was Isaac Abravenel, and his family claimed something almost no other family on earth could claim: direct descent from King David, the royal line of ancient Israel. Today we are not counting down ordinary hidden names. Today we are counting down the aristocracy 15 surnames that belong to the great Sephardic dynasties, the rabbis and royal advisors, and court physicians and philosophers who were, for centuries, something close to Jewish nobility. Some of these names are rare, some you may never have heard, but if even one of them sits in your family tree, you are not just carrying Jewish ancestry. You may be carrying the blood of the most distinguished families the Jewish world ever produced. Count how many you recognize. One honest word before we begin, the same one I always give you, because this channel does not trade in fantasy. A surname is never proof on its own. These great families had servants, neighbors, and communities who sometimes took their names, and names traveled across centuries in ways no one can fully trace. But these particular names are documented in synagogue registries, from Amsterdam to Salonika, in the records of the Inquisition, in the rabbinic literature that still shapes Judaism today. When one of them appears in your family, especially alongside a Spanish or Portuguese origin, and a story that never quite fit, it is worth taking very seriously. And if by the end of this you suspect one of them is yours, we built the tool to help you prove it your Jewish roots. A discovery kit with a companion database of hundreds of these Sephardic names, linked in the description and the pinned comment. Keep it in mind as we go. So let us meet the dynasties. Number 15. Abravenel. We begin where the throne room began. Abravenel, also spelled Abravenel, is one of the oldest and most distinguished surnames in all of Jewish history, and the family claimed descent from the biblical King David himself. The name means, roughly, Father, our Master, of God. For generations, the Abravenels served as financiers and advisors at the highest levels of Iberian power, culminating in Don Isaac Abravenel, the statesman and Bible commentator who served Ferdinand and Isabella, and then chose exile over conversion in 1492. His descendants spread across Italy and the Mediterranean, carrying both the name and the claim of royal blood. If your family carries Abravenel in any spelling, you may be looking at one of the few surnames on earth that traces, by its own ancient tradition, to the throne of ancient Israel. Number 14. Benveniste. Benveniste is a name that sounds like a blessing, and that is almost exactly what it is. It comes from a medieval phrase, meaning welcome or welcome. For centuries, it was one of the most powerful Jewish surnames in Spain, carried by court physicians, financiers, and scholars, who moved in the highest circles of Iberian society. The Benvenistes were among the Jewish families received at royal courts as advisors and diplomats. After the expulsion, the name reappeared among the leadership of the great refugee communities in Amsterdam and the Ottoman Empire, restored proudly by families reclaiming an ancestry they had been forced to hide. If Benveniste runs in your line, your name was once a word of welcome spoken in the courts of medieval Spain. Number 13. Saltiel. Saltiel, sometimes Saltiel or Shaltiel, is a name with a quiet grandeur to it, because it is built from Hebrew, and tradition holds it, too, connects back toward the Davidic line. The name appears among Sephardic communities across the Mediterranean, particularly in the great Jewish center of Salonika. In what is now Greece, a city that was, for centuries, so overwhelmingly Jewish that the port shut down on the Sabbath. The Saltiels were part of that world, a rabbinic and communal name carried by families who had fled Iberia and rebuilt Jewish life in the Ottoman lands. If your family carries Saltiel, the name reaches back into one of the most remarkable Jewish cities that ever existed. Number 12. Abulafia. Abulafia is one of the most evocative names in the entire Sephardic world, carried by a sprawling dynasty of rabbis, mystics, and scholars. The most famous bearer, Abraham Abulafia, was a 13th-century mystic so bold that he once traveled to Italy intending to meet the Pope and debate him about Judaism. The Abulafias produced Kabbalists, chief rabbis, and Talmudic authorities across Spain, and after the expulsion their name became prominent in the holy city of Tiberias and across the Ottoman Jewish world. This is a name soaked in mysticism and learning. If Abulafia is in your family, you carry the name of one of the great mystical dynasties of Judaism. Number 11. Nahmias. Nahmias is among the oldest documented Sephardic surnames, and it carries a small piece of history that few names can claim. It is built from the Hebrew name Nehemiah, comforted by God. The Nahmias family was prominent in Spain before the expulsion, and a Nahmias is associated with one of the earliest Hebrew printing operations, bringing the new technology of the printed book into the Jewish world. After 1492, the name spread into the Ottoman Empire and North Africa, carried by merchants and scholars. If your family is Nahmias, your name was already old and distinguished when Columbus set sail. Number 10. Laniado. Laniado is a name carried by one of the great rabbinic dynasties of the Sephardic world, especially associated with the city of Aleppo in Syria, home to one of the oldest and most learned Jewish communities on earth. For generations, the Laniados produced chief rabbis and Torah scholars who led that ancient community, and the name became almost synonymous with rabbinic leadership in the region. After the broader dispersions of Jewish history, Laniado spread to Israel, the Americas, and beyond. If your family carries Laniado, you carry the name of a rabbinic dynasty that helped lead one of the most venerable Jewish communities in the world. Number 9. Curiel. Curiel comes with one of the most astonishing hidden history stories on this entire list, a story that reaches all the way into early America. The Curiels were a prominent Sephardic family who, after the expulsion, held diplomatic positions for the Portuguese crown from their base in Amsterdam and Hamburg, building a trading empire that dealt in everything from Brazilian sugar to Indian diamonds. One Curiel was even knighted by the King of Portugal. But here is the astonishing part. Modern DNA research traced a branch of the Curiel family to an early settler in colonial New Jersey named Abraham Curiel, whose American descendants, spelling the name Curiel, had no idea for generations that their line was Jewish at all. The Grand Sephardic Curiels and a quiet New Jersey family turned out to be the same blood. If your family carries Curiel or Curiel, you may be part of one of the most remarkable documented Sephardic discoveries in America. If even one of these names has made you sit up if you are starting to wonder whether your own family belongs somewhere on this list, then stay with me. Because this is exactly what we built to help you find out. Your Jewish Roots is a complete discovery kit that walks you from a single surname to a documented family history, and it comes with a companion database of hundreds of these Sephardic names, organized so you can look yours up and trace where it leads. If your name is on this list, that is your starting point. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Now back to the dynasties. Number 8. Pinto. Pinto is a name that hides its grandeur behind apparent simplicity. In Portuguese and Spanish, the word can mean painted or speckled, and the name looks utterly ordinary, which is part of why it survived. But Pinto is a deeply documented Sephardic surname, carried by a distinguished rabbinic and merchant dynasty. The de Pinto family became one of the wealthiest and most influential Sephardic families in Amsterdam. Financiers whose fortune was so vast, they helped underwrite the Dutch East India Company. The name also produced renowned rabbis and Kabbalists, whose influence is still felt today. Today, Pinto is widespread across the Portuguese-speaking world and beyond. And most who carry it are not Jewish, but the documented Jewish Pinto line was Sephardic aristocracy. If your family is Pinto, the plain name may hide a very grand history. Number 7. Lopez. Lopez is one of the most common surnames in the entire Spanish-speaking world, and that is exactly why its Jewish history is so easy to miss. It means son of Lope, an ordinary Iberian patronymic carried by millions. But Lopez, in its various spellings, is also extensively documented among conversos and openly returning Sephardic Jews. The most famous example is Aaron Lopez, who fled the Inquisition's reach and became one of the wealthiest merchants in colonial Newport, Rhode Island, a pillar of early American Jewish life. The Lopez name runs all through the records of the Sephardic communities of Amsterdam, London, and the Americas, with so many millions carrying it. The documented Jewish Lopez line is just one thread among many, but it is a real and distinguished one. If your family is Lopez and traces to Iberia, that thread is worth pulling. Number 6. Nunes. Nunes, also spelled Nunes, is one of the great converso surnames, a name that appears again and again in the records of secret Jews who fled Portugal and rebuilt their lives in the open. It means son of Nuo, an ordinary Portuguese patronymic, which made it ideal cover for families hiding their faith. But the documented Jewish Nunes families were extensive and prominent merchants, physicians, and community leaders who carried the name from Lisbon to Amsterdam, to the Caribbean, to the American colonies. One of the first Jewish physicians in colonial Georgia was a Nunes who had fled the Portuguese Inquisition. If your family carries Nunes or Nunez and traces to Portugal, your name sits squarely in the documented story of the secret Jews who refused to disappear. Number 5. Caro. Caro may be the single most important name on this entire list, even though many have never heard it because of one man. Joseph Caro, born in Spain or Portugal around the time of the expulsion, fled with his family and eventually settled in the holy city of Safed, where he composed the Shulchan Aruch, the Set Table, the great code of Jewish law that to this day governs how observant Jews around the world live their lives. It is no exaggeration to say that Joseph Caro shaped the daily practice of Judaism more than almost anyone in the last 500 years. The name itself likely means dear or beloved. If your family carries Caro, you may share a name with the man who wrote the rulebook of Jewish life itself. Number 4. Luria. Luria, also Luria or Luri, is a name that carries the very soul of Jewish mysticism. Isaac Luria, known as the Ari, the Lion, was a 16th-century mystic in Safed who revolutionized Kabbalah so completely that nearly all later Jewish mysticism flows from his teachings. He died young, but his ideas reshaped the spiritual world of Judaism forever. The Luria family is ancient and distinguished, with branches reaching across both the Sephardic and Ashkenazi worlds, and a lineage that some traced back toward great medieval scholars. If your family carries Luria, Loria, or Luri, your name belongs to one of the most spiritually influential dynasties in all of Jewish history. Number 3. Zacuto. Zacuto is the name of a man who, quite literally, helped chart the course of history. Abraham Zacuto was a brilliant Jewish astronomer and mathematician in Spain, and then Portugal so respected that he served as royal astronomer. He perfected astronomical tables and navigational instruments that the great explorers of the Age of Discovery relied upon. His work was used by the very expeditions that crossed the oceans in that era. And then, in 1497, the same Portugal that used his science expelled and forced the conversion of its Jews, and Zacuto fled into exile, continuing his work in North Africa. The name means pure. If your family carries Zacuto, your ancestors' science may have helped guide ships across the very oceans that Sephardic refugees were forced to cross. Number 2. Modigliani. Modigliani is the name where Sephardic history meets modern art. It is an Italian Jewish surname, meaning from Modigliani, a town in Italy, the kind of place name that Italian Jewish families adopted for centuries. The most famous bearer is Amedeo Modigliani, the legendary painter and sculptor whose elongated, haunting portraits made him one of the defining artists of the 20th century, and who came from a cultured Italian Sephardic Jewish family that traced its heritage with pride. The family even claimed a connection to the philosopher Spinoza. If your family carries Modigliani, you share a name with one of the most recognizable artists of the modern age, rooted in proud Italian Sephardic soil. Number 1. Curiel. We end with a name that holds the whole tragic, defiant story of Sephardic Jewry inside it. Curiel means colonel, a name suggesting rank and command. But its Jewish history runs straight through the heart of 1492. The most storied bearer connects to Abraham Sr., the chief rabbi and tax farmer of Castile, one of the most powerful Jews in all of Spain, who under enormous royal pressure converted to Christianity rather than go into exile, and took the name Curiel. Other members of the family made different choices. Some left, some stayed. Some returned to Judaism generations later in the communities of Amsterdam and the Ottoman Empire. So the name Curiel holds within it the very choice that defines Sephardic history: convert and stay, or hold the faith and flee. If your family carries Curiel, your name remembers the impossible decision that an entire people was forced to make, and the courage it took on every side of it. So there they are, 15 of the great Sephardic names: Abravenel, Benveniste, Saltiel, Abulafia, Nahmias, Laniado, Curiel, Pinto, Lopez, Nunes, Caro, Luria, Zacuto, Modigliani, and Curiel. How many did you recognize? And did any of them belong to your family? Tell me in the comments, and tell me your name's story if you have one. Because the histories people share on these videos are extraordinary. And here is the truth this channel keeps returning to. These were not ordinary names. They belonged to the philosophers, the royal advisors, the astronomers, the mystics, and the lawgivers of the Jewish world, and a great many of their descendants are scattered across the globe today. In families that have no idea what they carry, a name is a thread, not a verdict. But when the thread leads back to a dynasty like these, it is worth following all the way. That is exactly what we built your Jewish roots to help you do, to take you from a name on a list to a documented family story, with the companion surname database to trace where yours leads. If one of these names was yours, this is your next step. Check the link in the description in the pinned comment, and start tracing your story today. If these are the histories that fascinate you, the buried dynasties, the hidden bloodlines, the names that carried a people through 5 centuries of exile, then consider subscribing, and follow that link if you want to uncover your own. That is the real reason we are here. Thank you for watching. Until next time, every people has a story they were never told. Maybe yours begins with a name.